This is the James Golden Show with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Welcome, my friends. The Saturday morning vibe is here. Glad you are here with us. If you would like to be part of the program this morning, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. We are looking forward to hearing from Princess Diana today. We are looking forward to hearing from America's small caffeinated mom, Rhonda Shrock. We are, of course, anxiously awaiting our very own Lizzie Radabali, who will be with us as well. America's fire brand. And fire is going to be a topic of discussion for a lot of the morning. There are other things happening, reaction coming in since yesterday to this outrageous sentencing of President-elect Donald Trump by the heavily biased Judge Merchant in New York. Some of the indignities that Donald Trump may have to go through. AP did a story on that, providing DNA samples, not being able to have a firearm, so forth and so on. Outrageous. Hopefully that sentence will be overturned, and it should be pursued. It may take years. I saw a story in the New York Times today. Overturning this thing may take years. Has to be done. The big story this week, what is going on in the West Coast, Los Angeles in particular. My friends, it is not just Los Angeles that is on fire. Liberalism itself is on fire. What has happened in LA is disgraceful from any number of perspectives. You have a bloated budget where a woman was brought in from the private sector. By the way, I'm not trying to demonize this woman. It is just about accountability. You will hear from her. We have a soundbite of her conducting an interview. You will hear in her own words what her priorities were, assuming the job as water czar of Los Angeles, a salary of $750,000 a year. We will hear from the fire chief in Los Angeles and what their priorities are. Now, she had been summoned to a meeting with Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, who came back in town. She was attending an inauguration of President in Guyana in Africa, despite the fact that there were warnings, and California was warned that the oncoming Santa Ana winds could be problematic. This is what has happened, and why I say that liberalism is on fire. Their priorities in government are now being looked at very closely by the American people because of what has happened here. And part of the reason for the interest, sadly, is that it is not often that you see an entire community of celebrities that are being wiped out, at least in terms of their homes. On a positive note, this morning we learned that the actor James Woods was mistaken when he thought that his house had burned down. His house is still standing. Much to the chagrin of some of the leftists who were celebrating him losing his house, or when he thought he lost his house. His house miraculously survived. I had a long conversation last night with a very, very dear friend of mine First time he's been able to call me. He's out in L.A. He was out doing a gig, a musician, a very well-known musician, that would have left him there for 3 weeks. He ended up staying at a residence with people that he knows very well in Palisades, Pacific Palisades, and was there. And the story that he told me is just chilling because it also involves matters of faith. I mean, I'll just briefly say one of the things she said last night, God woke me up. At 5:30 in the morning, I felt fully refreshed, he told me. And he started attending to some prayer, devotions, meditation, and then went about his routine after that and left at precisely 10:45 that morning. He sent me a picture of, he stopped on the road and took a picture of what he was seeing in his rearview mirror, which was this huge, almost like a mushroom cloud, going up, and with fire trucks already coming in, passing him as he was leaving. The fires had just begun as he was leaving. Now, he was among many that thought all of his belongings that he took out there were lost and gone. As it turns out, the house that he was staying at was spared. Every house around it gone. And last night, he was able to retrieve some of his personal items that he had brought along there. But, of course, that was insignificant. He said, he figured we lost that, to what was happening to people on the ground and is happening. California has never experienced a fire like this, a series of fires. And by the way, this morning, there are evacuation notices, I believe, going up near Brentwood or Encino. And where these fires are happening, it's astounding. I've been to Encino, California. Beautiful. Encino was where Michael Jackson for many years had a property in Encino, Florida, before I think he moved to Neverland. This Palisades, Pacific Palisades, it's stunning. The vistas there, these properties. The median household in Pacific Palisades is $3 million. That's median. Some of the houses are up, going past the $20 million mark, and so forth. They're gone. There's a story of insurance that's going on in California. There's a story of mismanagement, the priorities, the bloated budgets, everything that liberals have done in that state, in California, including, I didn't have this in the sound bites, including this. They appealed for help from neighboring states to bring in firefighters. Before the firefighters could come, now keep in mind you have entire cities actively burning. The fires are raging. And according to one report I saw on social media with the media personality, and I did not verify this, which is why I'm saying it is a report that I saw. But what this gentleman was explaining to his audience was that all of the help that was coming in from neighboring states first had to go through Sacramento. Why? Because the fire apparatus that other states were sending in had to be inspected by California law, had to pass inspection before they could go and help put out the fires. So they are involved in a cumbersome bureaucratic act that takes, while people's houses are burning, they have to detour. They can't go straight there and start helping to put out the fires. No, they have to go and have their vehicles inspected and deal with the bureaucrats first. And then on the way out of the state, they have to be inspected again. This is the kind of nonsense that if this is true, this is the kind of nonsense that people are seeing. It's up in front of everyone's faces. The fire chief out there, and she's come under some criticism too, but the fire chief, a woman by the name of Kirsten Crowley, was on with Jake Tapper. And we have that. And we are going to be playing a lot of audio for you today, I hope, because there's a lot going on with this. Let's listen to Kirsten Crowley, Carlos, with Jake Tapper.
Very clear. Yes, we took a $17 million budget cut. And as we know, any budget cut would negatively impact our ability to carry out our mission. I want to also clarify that I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant. It's my job as the fire chief of the Los Angeles City Fire Department to make sure that our firefighters have exactly what they need to do their jobs. And that's why I'm talking to you today. The Palisades fire, everybody's seen it. It is absolutely one of the most horrific natural disasters in the history of Los Angeles. And even with an additional 100 engines, I tell you, we were not going to catch that fire. But with that being said, let me be clear. The $17 million budget cut and the elimination of our civilian positions like our mechanics did and has and will continue to severely impact our ability to repair our apparatus. So with that, we have over 100 fire apparatus out of service. And having these apparatus in the proper amount of mechanics would have helped. And so it did absolutely negatively impact. I want to also be clear that I have, over the last 3 years, been clear that the fire department needs help. We can no longer sustain where we are. We do not have enough firefighters. With that, I have also requested multiple budgets, interim budgets, to show how understaffed, under-resourced, and underfunded the LEFD is. So with that, also, we have clear data that shows the LEFD needs more help. We need 62 more fire stations. These reports also show that we've had a 55% increase in overall call volume since 2010. And guess what? We're doing it with less firefighters. I was also directed to develop a plan as part of a budget reduction exercise, and that could equate to $48.8 million. And I rang the bell that these additional cuts could be very, very devastating for our ability to provide public safety. That would have resulted to 15 fire stations closing down and potentially the elimination of over 300 firefighters. Again, I want to be clear that I submitted a very large budget that will actually allow our firefighters to do their jobs. And I tell you,
I'll tell you folks, this is unconscionable. 100 fire apparatus, 100 vehicles that could have helped with fire if they were staffed, 100 that are not working because of Karen Bass's budget cuts. Now, this fire chief, after this interview, was hauled in, summoned to the mayor's office. We'll talk about that when we get back. James Golden, a.k.a. Snerdley, with you, the Saturday Morning Vibe. Okay, Carlos. What you got for us, Carlos?
I got this. So
you got
we have
this.
Mary J. Blige, or Mary Jane Blige, as her real name is. American R&B soul singer, has her birthday today.
Oh, cool. Happy birthday, Mary J. Blige. Carlos, you have a fan club out here. You know, you do know that, right?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm here like giving my opinions on like stuff I'd never like bothered to like look at. I'm killing artist names here or there. I'm also knighted. I'm knighted. People forget that. My name is also Earl, Knighted Earl, as Princess Di says.
Yes, you do have a growing fan club, and every time I say something about your pronunciation of certain artists' names, I hear about it. Your fan club, they love you. And some of them are mean. When they tell me that I shouldn't be, they consider it a tax on you.
No, it's all fun. It's all fun.
Okay. James Golden's 30, the Saturday Morning Vibe. Mary J. Blige takes us in. Stay there. We're coming back. Don't go away.
I told you leave your situations at the door. So grab somebody and get your ass on the dance floor.
This is the James Golden Show. James Golden Show. 4 words that mean business. With James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
We got word in the overnight that Sam passed away. 89 years old. Sam and Dave, of course, early pioneers of, I guess it should be called the golden age of R&B. Back when you could actually listen to a lot of R&B with your family and not have to worry about what was being sung or said. Sam Moore, with his late partner Dave Prater, cut some of the best-known records in the genre of R&B, like this one, Soul Man, Hold On, I'm Coming. Passed away at his Florida home. He had surgery this week. He and Dave didn't always get along, but I tell you what, the music. James Golden, Snerdley with you here. Let's see if we have time to do this. Quickly, I want you to hear from the woman that makes $750,000 a year in charge of water, who knew that one of the reservoirs in Pacific Palisades, was empty and did nothing. Her name is Janice Quinones. By the way, just go listen to the interview. It's the waters are in California. Let's listen to her priorities. Here she is.
Coming from the communities that I come, seeing what I've seen through my career in utilities and through the military. I've been in the Coast Guard 19 and a half years now, so I got 6 more months to qualify for my 20 years, which was my original goal.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank
you for your service.
Thank you. It's important to me that everything we do, it's with an equity lens and social justice and making sure that we right the wrongs that we've done in the past from an infrastructure perspective, and that we involve the community in that process. And this utility is serious about it, is authentic about it. And so I'm just super excited to be part of that movement.
Her job is the head of the water in L.A. What does she say? Everything that she does will be looked at through the lens of equity and righting the wrongs of the past. Righting the wrongs of the past didn't include making sure that there was water to put out fires. 750 G's a year. Snerdley, James Golden with you here. Saturday Morning Vibe continues. Stay with us. Do not dare go away.
The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
It's 6 a.m. in LA County, California, and I'm starting to wonder when Donald Trump's going to come out and ask the wildfires to maybe stop after January 20th so he can make some sort of negotiation with them so that way they don't cause so much destruction.
Even in the fire zone, the TDS is alive and well. On this day in 1999, Barry Pritchard, guitarist and vocalist with The Fortunes, passed away. 1965, this one reached a number 7 on the top 10 charts in the United States, but it became one of the most well-known cover songs. So many artists have done this one. Remembering Barry Pritchard and The Fortunes. On Bo Snerdley, we're here. Bo Snerdley's here. The Saturday Morning Vibe is here. We are going to do this, folks. I've got so many pieces of audio for you to listen to. Setting each one up would take almost all show if I gave a full commentary on each one. So I'm not going to do that. Here's what we're going to do, Carlos. Here's what we're going to do, Kelvin. We are going to just start running through them, and I will comment on them afterwards. A reporter out there, I don't know who this brave reporter is, cut 4. A reporter questioned L.A. Mayor Karen Bass. Let's listen in on how that went.
The crew and I arrived shortly after it started, and for several hours we watched as hundreds of homes in a neighborhood burned to the ground. We did not see a single fire engine. We watched as Good Samaritans guided traffic. There was fear and there was a lot of confusion. You were out of the country at the time. Shortly after the fire started, a press release was put out warning of this fire behavior. My question to you is, what explains this lack of preparation and rapid response?
Let me just say, first and foremost, my number one focus, and I think the focus of all of us here with one voice, is that we have to protect lives, we have to save lives, and we have to save homes. Rest assured that, rest assured, let me finish. Rest assured, when that is done, when we are safe, when lives have been saved and homes have been saved, we will absolutely do an evaluation to look at what worked, what didn't work, and to correct or to hold accountable any body, department, individual, etc. But my focus right now is on the lives and on the homes.
Do you think your leadership was effective while responding to this disaster?
I just said what I believe is the most important thing for us to do.
Yeah. Why were you out of the country? You knew fire. There were warnings. Why was there no water in the reservoir? Why? Why firemen? Why were there no traffic officers as you're evacuating? Why were there not enough fire trucks? Well, we already know the answer to that. Budget cuts, in some cases, that she is responsible for. Now, of course, certain members of the media have their target that they are blaming for all of this. Let us turn to CNN's Anderson Cooper, who is out on the left coast. He found himself with Governor Newsom. Cut 5, let's listen into that.
Even asked this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, it's people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden. And he had the backs of every single person in this community. He didn't play politics, didn't try to divide any of us.
Finally, your message.
So according to Anderson Cooper and Gavin Newsom, Donald Trump's criticisms, and he has been talking about this for years, warning of the dangers of these policies put in place by Gavin Newsom and others. Donald Trump is the problem. And here's Anderson Cooper with houses burning down and everything else, not questioning the governor as to why there's no water to put out these fires. How come the brush wasn't removed? How come these budget cuts have been allowed to happen in one of the biggest cities in the world where people cannot, firefighters, show up, try to connect hoses, and no water comes out. And instead, for Anderson Cooper, the issue is President-elect Donald Trump. Next up, let's another governor. The governor from Florida, on how the press handles these kind of disasters.
Well, here's my point is just simply, they were trying to pin this on Donald Trump, and they were going after Donald Trump's comments. And I'm just thinking to myself, I've seen how these people in the press react to when these things happen in the state of Florida. All they try to do is to find things that they can create negative narratives about. I remember when we had Hurricane Ian, Category 5 monster storm hit Southwest Florida. All they were looking for were things to do negative. And the reality was the state was prepared. We had an overwhelming response. We were doing things like rebuilding bridges in 3 days. We were able to bring the power back on and millions of people in record time. And so once it was clear that people were satisfied with the response after a few days, you couldn't find CNN in the state of Florida if you had a search warrant. I mean, they were just gone. They had no interest in covering the story at that point. And so it's different how they approach these things when it's one of their guys on their team, both in terms of the mayor and the governor. And so I'm fine to say just don't politicize it at all. But I think the media, it's like the pot calling the kettle black when they're attacking Donald Trump, when they're the ones that are always the lead in these instances.
Amen to that, Governor DeSantis. Now, what were the Democrat leaders in California's assembly doing while all of this were going on, while residents of California are having their livelihoods taken from them, their businesses burned up, their communities burned to the ground, people losing their houses and everything they had, a number of people losing their lives. So far, the death toll is at 11, but already today, the officials are saying, look, and the people in the fire department there that are being interviewed are saying, we have no idea yet how many people have lost their lives because we can't get in to these places. We don't know. It is going to rise. What were the Democrats in California doing? Robert Rivas, Speaker of the California Assembly, came out to talk to reporters. They held a special session of the legislature. They called in a special session. What was the purpose of the special session? Not to deal with the fires. The special session was to figure out how they can attack Donald Trump legally, how they can try to put up blockades for things that Donald Trump wants to do, to Trump-proof their state. That was as fires are burning and people are fleeing their homes and people are watching their entire lives, their business lives, go up in flames. They are holding a session to try to attack Donald Trump. These are California Democrats. He actually got some questions. This is what that sounded like.
I could take a couple of questions. I do have to jump on a call here in a few minutes.
With that, with what you just mentioned and kicked off here, is now the right time to have a special legislative session on allocating money to fight Trump in a way that you could already do without a special legislative session?
So I'm here to address these wildfires. This is a historic wildfire. This is a historic event. These wildfires, as I mentioned, are going to be quite possibly some of the worst wildfires and disasters in state and national history.
While this wildfire is happening, and while people understand what's going on and are worried about disaster relief, worried about the ability to get homeowners insurance. Your chamber gavelled into a special legislative session to prepare for Donald Trump in a way that you are already able to do without a special legislative session. So again, is now the right time for that?
So certainly our focus right now as Speaker, Ashley, at this moment, my colleagues and I, we are acting with great urgency to ensure that we're providing much needed relief to Angelenos, to ensure that we understand what it's going to take for this region to recover, and to support those that have been most impacted by this disaster. This is the response from our first responders has been unprecedented. And they're doing all that they can to control and contain, again, these multiple fires. They're doing whatever they can to ensure that that they're keeping people safe now, and again, in anticipation and in preparation for recovery. And as a state, as a legislature, we will do everything we can to support that recovery.
He began by, we're going to take questions on our anti-Trump initiatives. He expected, yay, are you going to nail it to Trump? Instead, he got a reporter. Is this the right time for this? And you heard the pivot, the nervous pivot. The guy was shocked. We here to speak about wildfires. The first responders, they're doing great. And the reporter made a point, and I wish I knew who this brave reporter was. You didn't have to call a special session for this. They called a special session to attack Donald Trump in the middle of wildfires. And when he's called out on it, he realizes what this moment is going to look like on TV. And he tries to pivot. It's amazing. What are people going through? Cut 9, Carlos. Cut 9. What are people going through out there?
Not one home is standing. Not one home. We live in the Will Rogers neighborhood. There's only about 4 homes standing. And the saddest part is through the entire night where we could see the smoke, we could see the fire coming closer and closer to our neighborhood. Not one fire truck was in our neighborhood. It's truly unfortunate, the lack of management by our city officials, our elected officials that occurred in this disaster. It was a terrible night. It was an absolutely terrible night, but I think a lot of it could have been avoided. It is mind-blowing that our state has done such a poor job managing our water supply, so firefighters who are risking their life have no water in a fire hydrants. It's been lots of tears, lots of sadness. There needs to be, lots of mourning for this community, but this is a strong community. We will come together.
Yeah, and there are people already talking about rebuilding. It's just totally amazing what is happening there. Mel Gibson. Let me hold the Mel Gibson one for later. There's a lot of stuff out there. And, of course, the keep our own kids safe society are out en masse. That is cut 11, Carlos. The Keep Our Own Kids Safe Society.
The California wildfires are a celebrity cover-up. Hear me out, okay? So mid-2024, P. Diddy, one of the biggest celebrities in the world, right, gets arrested, and we all know for what by this point. And you mean to tell me now the beginning of 2025, celebrities' houses are burning down in the state of California? The rich are losing everything they own. And their houses are just burning down.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
You know what else could be gone in those fires?
What?
Evidence. Call me crazy. But then FEMA doesn't bat an eye to run out and help California. But North Carolina? Our friends in the South that got hit by a massive hurricane, people still living in tents, mothers losing their newborn babies because they're freezing to death because FEMA still hasn't helped them. But FEMA's out in California already, helping victims of the wildfires, helping the rich. I said what I said.
we thank you for it. James Golden, a.k.a. Snerdley. On this day, 1958, this single was due to be released. But Decca Records in the UK had to stop the release. They could not keep up with the demand. In England alone, 250,000 copies had been ordered on this record. It blew up around the world. Elvis Presley. On this day, January 1958. Keep it right here. The Saturday Morning Vibe continues. Your call's coming up as well. Don't go away.
The James Golden Show. The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
House-owning, private jet-using wannabe socialist Bernie Sanders has blamed climate change for the fires in LA right now. The temperature is in the mid-60s in LA. It's winter time. You're telling me that climate change caused 3 separate fires, to spontaneously start in the middle of winter? All these fires in the past, not because of climate change, but fires now, they're because of climate change. This is called fear-mongering the Democrat base instead of putting blame where it actually belongs. And by the way, one of the lowest rainfall years on record was not 2024, but 1897. Was it climate change then, guys? Was it?
James Golden, Snerdley, the Saturday Morning Vibe, 800-848-9222. Let's head to the telephone, shall we? Let's start in the Catskills of New York with Chris. Chris, how are you this morning?
Hey, good morning, James. So, I just got a utility bill from Central Hudson where I had to turn my dehumidifier off permanently, but it's a bill that I'm not in a position where I want to pay that, even if I had a lot more money. The Public Utility Corporate group was actually giving something. They're never given. They gave it to the regional utility companies, the full increase amount of the rates.
Okay, but aside from your utilities bills, what does this? I'm failing to see the connection here. What does this have to do with what we're talking about, or is this just a random thing you're talking about here?
I'm segueing to the chase. So
let's get to the chase.
Essentially, you're missing the point, James, because when this woman that is head of the utilities making $750,000 a year is talking about writing past injustices and having a socially woke policy on utilities, the areas that have been the most affected, where the most residents lost homes, are upper middle class to very affluent areas. And so, she wanted to make sure that those areas maybe didn't have the water first because she was writing the injustices of
No, you cannot be saying that for real. You cannot be saying that you think that this woman intentionally let those areas burn down. Is that what you were implying?
I'm just throwing out like a Tony Hinchcliffe kind of roast kind of comment. I don't know, but it's If you're going to,
what I think we're looking at with this particular woman, and God bless her, she was a member of Coast Guard, served the country, and all that. I'm not trying to attack her personally, and I'm not interested in attacking her personally. But the incompetence, we learned that the reservoir that serves Pacific, one of the reservoirs that serves Pacific Palisades, has been out of commission for, they won't even say how long. Repairs, emergency repairs, were not ordered, even with the threat of an oncoming fire system. This woman is making $750,000. You have people's houses burning up and no water in the reservoir system that she is in charge of. While she states in interviews that her concerns, she looks at everything through the lens of equity. There have got to be serious questions asked about her competency. This is amazing. Bob in Westchester County, New York, you are up next.
Yes.
You're up. What's on your mind this morning?
James, no competence. No competence. She should be fired, and the mayor and the governor should be fired. It's a disgrace what took place. A total disgrace. Incompetence all the way around.
It is not just incompetence. As I said when I opened the show, liberalism is on fire. What we are seeing in Los Angeles is a microcosm of the macrocosm of liberalism. The priorities. Fox has a story today about where they're spending the money. Here's the headline: LA County cut fire budget while spending heavily on DEI, woke items like the Midnight Stroll Transgender Cafe. Folks, liberalism is on fire at this moment. James Golden, Snerdley with you. Your call is welcome. Later on, we're going to hear from Princess Di. We're going to hear from America's Small Caffeinated Mom. We're going to hear from you. And shortly, we're going to hear from Lizzie. Don't go away.
This is the James Golden Show with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Of course, now that hour one is in the can, hour number duo gets underway. James Golden, Bo Snerdley with you for the Saturday Morning Vibe. If you would like to be part of the program this morning, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. Ladies and gentlemen, such a pleasure now to introduce America's firebrand. She is the hero of the downtrodden worker across the United States of America. She's our very own Red Apple News Anchorette Supremo, the one, the only, Lizzie Radabali. Lizzie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bo. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Lizzie, I can't believe you sent me this story. I just love this story. Lizzie, you have introduced me to a new term that I did not know existed. It is called career catfishing. Please, Lizzie, tell us what career catfishing is all about.
Well, career catfishing is just another one of those things that it already kind of had a name. It was like a trend. It's a phenomenon that I know as a no call, no show, where you do not show up for work. And specifically with this career catfishing trend, it's when workers will go through all the application process, and then they don't show up on day one when they're supposed to start their job. They don't show up as kind of like, a power grab or something like that, a sort of assertion of dominance.
Lizzie, this power grab, as you put it, this show of dominance, you go through the entire interview process, and then comes day one, you don't show up for your job. This is not common in every demographic. This apparently is something that Gen Z has developed or come up with.
Yep, absolutely.
And Gen Z, that would mean people that are what, in their 20s?
27 and younger. So I am part of the Zoomer generation, technically. I am one of the Zoomers. And the research found that, bulk of those people who are doing the career catfishing, they call it, are, 34% are Zoomers.
And they do this to irk their corporate employers. They want to make a statement. They want to irk these people. They accept the job offer. They don't show up so that they can tick off their corporate bosses that are not really going to be their bosses because they have no intention of working.
Yeah, I mean, so this, this trend, like I said, it's just one of those things that already had a name, or it was just like a general phenomenon, but now we're identifying it with this, career catfishing, this different, nomenclature that we're, giving to this trend. It's the same as fads like quiet quitting. People, who just...
What is that?
Just quit, no notice, just... quit their jobs, do not tell anyone. That is the essence of quiet quitting.
This is another thing in your generation.
Just like in general, like not specifically with Gen Z, but
okay.
This is just like workers in general have been participating in quiet quitting, or they call bare minimum Mondays, where you do like the absolute bare minimum specifically on Mondays after coming back from the weekend. And coffee badging, which is when you just go to work, go to the office, tap in, get a cup of coffee, and then go home to do the rest of your work.
You're serious?
I am dead serious. That is something that people do because I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of these corporations, after years of, allowing remote work, allowing their employees to work from home, more often than not in jobs that they don't really need to come into an office for. They could very much do, whatever the emails they have to send and calls they have to make. They can do it from their home. Like a lot of these office jobs, simply put, can be done from home. Like that is a truth that we have to we've been trying to reckon with after COVID. But, the cities, they have to bounce back. They have to have the workers back. They have to fuel the economy. So the giant corporations are forcing these workers who really don't have any need to be in office.
Poor workers have to actually come to work.
Well, yeah, but like I said...
How unfair. Oh, you have to show up for work at work.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things can be done remotely. Like, that is a truth. And, people, they're applying for these jobs. They're doing like 11 rounds of interviews, and then they're getting a job offer for a full-time salary gig in New York City for $37,000 a year. That is not livable. That is why these kids are quitting. That's why these kids are just not even showing up. They're going through all this application, they're given the rigmarole when trying to apply. They got to go through all these AI screeners. They got to make sure that they have the keywords in their resume that the AI bots will select their special resume for. And, then they make it through. They have to talk to 11 different people to get this emailing job. And then, like I said, they're offered like a measly pay. And
a measly pay.
A measly pay,
measly pay. They're offered a measly pay so that they can go home and goof off all day and pretend they're working, come to the office, grab a cup of coffee, then head back home because they're ticked off that they actually have to show up in the office to come do work when you're hired to do work for measly pay because it's not enough. They're not giving me $100,000 a year to start, even though I have proved absolutely nothing to this company, even though I have done absolutely nothing
Well,
to earn $100,000, I deserve $100,000 because I was born.
If companies want workers, they have to pay them. That is the simple truth. I always support my workers' rights, and I'll also support my workers' wrongs. If they don't want to show up to work because they had to do like 11,000 rounds of phone calls and emails to get this job that
Wait a
pays
minute.
like
Poor
30
children. They didn't get hired on the first interview. Oh, they actually had to go through an interview process and actually apply, actually talk to people instead of texting them. They had to actually come up and answer a few questions before they get hired. Shame on the employees for actually asking to interview them.
It's not
they should
anything
just
against
give them
interviews.
the job.
It's not anything against interviews. It's the fact that they're doing like 11 rounds of interviews for a gig where they're just sending emails. Like they're like, this is not like they're not like being appointed like the head of medicine at some New York City hospital. Like they're being appointed administrative assistant. And they have to go through 12 rounds of interviews.
What qualifications do they have to become the head of medicine?
I'm saying that's not what they're going for.
If all they can do with their if all they have learned how to do is to send emails, which is surprising that they even know how to send an email and not without, if they can do it without using text lingo in it and sending a bunch of emojis in it, I guess that's one of the things that they have to pass with the interview. Do you know how to actually put together a paragraph using the English language without emojis?
Well, I'll say a lot of these, hiring spots, they don't put together a paragraph. They have ChatGPT or whatever language learning model write out their job description. A lot of these aren't even, like I said, it's AI bots who are doing the hiring nowadays. So it's not even like, some manager is being slighted because someone didn't show up. At the end of the day, it's a robot who, got dissed.
Lizzie, you know one thing? There's going to come a day. You're going to be my age. I'm going to be long gone. You're going to be my age, and you're going to be looking back at all of this. And I promise you, Lizzie, I promise you that your views on workers today and what these poor little young adults have to go through. I'm just getting text. It amazes me. People chastising me because I'm complaining about people working from home and so forth. Lizzie, you show up to work, Lizzie. What's wrong with these other people showing up to work?
I show up for work, and I've never no call, no show. That's just like not how I was brought up. That's not my work ethic personally. But honestly, if there was a job where I had to go through, like I said, 11 rounds of interviews, and then they offered me $40K at the end of it, I would not show up for the first day. I would not show up for the first day, and I wouldn't let anyone know. I would let them fully believe that I am coming into work and then say, screw you, and leave them hanging.
Because $40,000 a year to start is not enough money.
No, it is not. It is not. In New York City? Are you kidding me?
Not here.
No, I'm not kidding you. If all you are qualified... No, it's... Lizzie, I can't even think straight. How much should they be making, Lizzie, on their first job?
I think...
What is a livable wage that would be acceptable to the youngins for their first job, Lizzie?
I think they should not be paid less than what they paid for their education. I think the average price of a college education is $60,000 in our country. $60,000 a year. Kids leaving.
So you want a $60,000 starting wage for all employees?
Sure. I don't really like. I'm not gonna crunch the numbers here. I'm not some like economist, but I think people should be paid what like I said, I think people should be paid what they're worth, and a lot of people are worth more than these companies recognize, and that's why they're not showing up, and the companies are getting screwed, and they only have themselves to blame.
Thank you, Lizzie. This has been quite enlightening, Lizzie.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what you come up with first next week, Lizzie. James Golden, thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Bo.
Lizzie.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Oh, my gosh. My blood pressure. Who's this, Carlos?
This is Money, Money, Money by ABBA because I felt like it was appropriate with the conversation you were having with Lizzie beforehand.
Thank you, Carlos. I'm 800-848. I am truly speechless. She's serious. She's serious.
I'm not gonna lie.
Serious.
I don't think 40K is livable in New York.
You think 40K is livable?
Oh, it's not. It's not.
It's not livable. You agree with her. $40,000 a year, $40,000 a year is not livable.
In New York City, no.
James Golden, Snerdley, 800-848-9222. Coming back. Don't go away.
This is the James Golden Show. The James Golden Show. 4 words that mean business with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
I'm sorry.
Right.
There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the call.
Why is the president not taking the call?
I'm not.
Because it's not going through. So
Why?
I have to get cell
So
service.
let's get it. Let's get it. I want to be here when you call the president.
I appreciate it. I'm doing that right now. And it's to immediately get reimbursements, individual assistance, and to help you. I'm devastated for you. I'm so sorry. Especially for your daughter. I have 4 kids. Losing the school.
Everyone who went to school there, they lost their homes. They lost 2 homes because they were living in one and building another. Governor, please tell me, what are you going to do with the president right now?
We're getting the resources to help rebuild.
Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
That's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be. Has to be. Of course.
What are you going to do?
I'm doing
To
everything
fill the
I can.
hydrants. I would fill them up personally. You know that. I would fill up the hydrants myself.
I understand.
But would you do that?
I would do whatever I can.
But you're not. I see do you know there's water dripping over there, Governor? There's water coming out there. You can use it.
I appreciate it. I'm going to make the call to address everything I can.
I'm on the phone with the president.
Making sure people
I'd
are
like
safe.
to make sure you do it. Can I have an opportunity to at least tell people you're doing what you're saying you're doing? Could somebody
Yeah,
have
this is
a
just
contact?
such as
Can I have
Gavin
your contact
Newsom
information?
lying to his constituents. Oh, I'm on the phone with the president right now. Can I see it? Can I see it? I've been trying to call him. Actually, I'm walking around because I don't have cell coverage. Phone won't go through. Lying to her face. These people. Let's take a quick telephone call. Christine in Connecticut is calling in. Hello, Christine.
Hi, James. Well, you know what? This DEI stuff and everything about being diverse, about diversity is a cancer in society. And now we've seen several people lost their lives because of these policies. DEI must die, James. And yet these liberals, they keep doubling down on it. This is maddening. We can't continue like this. How about merit-based achievement when you go get a job? Why can't we go back to that?
Because we have to be justice warriors and fight for social justice, and like the woman in charge of the water, who doesn't have water in the reservoir, said. We have to correct all the wrongs of the past because there are too many white men in jobs, by the way. So we have to make sure that we get some of those white men out of jobs and make sure that we spread it around. That's why. That's why I'm telling you, Christine, liberalism is on fire right now because everything that they believe is burning with these fires in Los Angeles. Thank you for the call. Wendy in Long Island, you're next.
Yeah, hey there, good morning.
Good morning.
That last soundbite that you played was really rich. Maybe that lady could take a statin. Anyhow, the reason why I was calling is I had heard on the radio a man called in from one of the previous burners, not your show, some other show. But anyhow, so he said that the reason why he saved his home from burning down is that he cut down the trees further from his house than the state of California allowed him to do. So that's another. If that's true, then that's another reason why homes could be burning. Like, think about it. Who in their right mind would want to build a home right in a forest in a state that that has fires since its inception?
I read a story on my weekday show that I did yesterday. I went back and pulled a story from 2 years ago about a guy that was living next to a preserve full of brush. He cleared the brush. San Diego, they fined him over $53,000 for making sure that his home was safe. This is exactly what Donald Trump has been talking about, these environmental policies in California that are now causing people to lose everything that they have. Donald Trump has been talking about this for years. And yet you hear Anderson Cooper, we played it earlier, blaming Donald Trump for bringing it up, for talking about it, attacking, as he says, Gavin Newsom. The insanity of liberal governance in California is in a spotlight thanks to these fires. James Golden, a.k.a. Snerdley, with you here. Stay there. Do not go away. The Saturday Morning Vibe continues.
The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
On this day in 1964, Louie Louie, the Kingsmen, was the number one song on the Cashbox music chart. Cashbox, yes. There were 3 big trades back then, magazines for people in radio, the record business. Cashbox was among them. Cashbox, Record World, and Billboard. I think of those 3, only Billboard is left. And then later on came radio and records. That's gone now, too. But it's been replaced. Anyway.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future. Sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
And to protect your future today, I want you to think about something. I have a story I'm holding in my hands right now. Headline, who pays to rebuild California when insurance falls short? Answer, everyone else. Folks, this is not just about California. Because what's happening in California has the possibility of happening elsewhere. Florida, residents of Florida, those of you in Florida know it, insurance is becoming more and more of an issue. In places in the Northeast, home insurance becoming more and more of an issue. What they say is, in this article, LA Times, I believe it's the LA Times, a shrinking California insurance market will leave Los Angeles area residents more dependent on a patchwork of federal programs, charitable aid, and their own savings to rebuild lives devastated by the most expensive fire in U.S. history. They go through what you already know, that most banks require homeowners with mortgages to insure the full value of the property. But dig this, 12% of homeowners across this country don't have home insurance. And when you pay for your house, by the way, who's going to tell you have to have it insured? That's your choice. So what happens? What happens if something happens? Well, you can rely on charitable aid if you can't pay to build back, but it's going to depend on you and your savings. And if you do not have a plan in place, you could be in big trouble. So how do you protect your future? By getting the plan in place. Getting the plan in place. And I would suggest to many of you that you should be talking to financial professionals and should have a portfolio, a diverse portfolio that will not be, for instance, driven down in value by high inflation. Protecting your future, serious business. Insurance, homeowners insurance, major part of that. Come up with a plan. Right now, we have with us on the line our dear friend of this program, America's Doctor, Dr. Peter Michalos. How are you, Dr. Michalos? How are you today?
Good morning, and great to be with the audience, and so much going on, and so much to do with helping protect our safety. And I think that one of the topics that we should be talking about are the building codes in California and how they need to be transformed, just like in Florida after they had major hurricanes, and they have something called the Dade County Standard of Construction, where new houses are built and they're concrete structures, poured concrete, and they use slate roofs and terracotta tiles. And guess what? Those houses don't burn, and California it has been, but it needs to adapt more, because a lot of the houses apparently built in the 90s tend to ignite like fire sticks. And the wood construction, everybody talks about environmentalism and taking down and destroying trees. Well, they're building all these houses made out of wood and particle board, and a lot of this lumber, like CCA, this treated lumber with formaldehyde, and you see those sheets that they put on roofs and the siding, and a lot of homes there preserve the wood with chemicals like formaldehyde, which are known carcinogens. And guess what? When they're burning, everyone's breathing them in. And the other problem is that all these microplastics, nanoplastics, and all the particle wood furniture is made with formaldehyde, and it's all burning, and people are breathing it in. So we're going to see the effects of this fire for many, many years to come, and it's also going to start moving across the country. So don't be surprised if we start seeing the air quality, even in the Northeast and Middle America, start changing from all these wildfires. And all this Green New Deal and saving carbon footprint that they talk about, every EV, every solar panel that they've had in California the last 5 years was just negated by these wildfires that are burning 4 times the size of Manhattan. And people need to be thinking and talking about that more. And I suggest people, when they indoors, they should have a HEPA air filter in the space they sleep, and to be aware of that, because the air quality in the United States is going to be dramatically affected, just like those Canadian wildfires affected everything. And for all the listeners out there around the country, also your cars, people forget to change the cabin and carbon filter in their car, and it's better to keep your windows rolled down and let the HEPA cabin filter in your car do some of the air cleaning so it doesn't get into your lungs. And I think that this is a good time in California for those people too. This is a good reason, other than viruses, to be wearing an N95 mask if you're going out, or if you're old, if you have lung problems. And it's probably best that your kids don't play outdoors in this smoky air that's sucking in all these small particles because our lungs are like vacuum cleaner bags. Some of the stuff that gets in stays in and causes damage, as we've learned after 9/11 with a lot of the people who developed severe lung problems and long-term health problems. But the building codes are something to be addressed. And also nobody talks about the shortage of volunteer firefighters in California because of the very high cost of living. They've driven them out. They need to.
Well, they didn't just. Let me just stop you. They didn't just drive them out on that. California fired their firefighters who refused to take the COVID vaccines. They fired them.
And guess who benefited? Florida.
Yes, and who benefited?
Yep, the red states got them because in New York, there was just on Long Island, there were like 1,500 nurses who were told that if they don't get the shot, and guess where they went? They went to Florida, South Carolina, and North Carolina, and all these states benefited from all these doctors. I have a bunch of colleagues who just left New York State. It's kind of scary. On the cover of AARP magazine, which is the largest distributed publication in the country, the title says, "Where have all the doctors gone?" Because there's been a major geographical redistribution of professionals, including people like firefighters and even police. I know at least 5 NYPD people personally who now are working in the Palm Beach, Boca Raton area. They just left. So this is a problem that we have to address. And about the water distribution, they tried to save a couple of fish by diverting some water, and we ended up killing hundreds of wildlife. And how many owls were burned alive? Nobody talks about that. These are serious things. The wildlife was decimated in these areas, and it's very sad. So we need to protect our health, and health is national security. What really scares me, imagine if we had a war and somebody dropped some napalm or a few bombs on these areas. We obviously don't have the capacity to fight wildfires, and we only have 2,000 burn beds in the entire United States. So imagine if we had a lot of people with burns, and if we had a war. We're not set up. We need to immediately start, I hope, very soon.
Well, we're too busy doing other things, Doctor. We're too busy making sure that we redress all of the harms of the past. And while our reservoirs out in California are left empty, at least they're addressing the historic social justice causes, according to their $750,000 a year water czar out there. Now, to your first point, once the fires are out, California must remove tons of dangerous debris. The toxic remnants of burned buildings around Los Angeles will require a complex and expensive mobilization. That story today in the New York Times, and it goes to some of the things that you're saying. I have to ask you this. You sent me an article earlier about Austria firefighting. What's happening in Austria? Donald Trump the other day was talking about Finland. What are they doing in Austria to fight fires?
Well, in Australia, which has some of the greatest amount of brush fires in the world, and they have they're considered the best wildfire firefighters in the world. But what they do is they have drones that fly around the forest areas and the areas prone to wildfires, and that data is transmitted with thermal cameras too. Even at night, they can spot fires, and it's constantly set to each fire station and every fire truck in real-time data. And they also have these robots that are set up around the areas remotely that can actually, they're on like little mini tractors, and they're connected to water and hoses, and they can shoot 300 feet all around and do spray like a giant lawn sprinkler, and they're in strategic areas, and they can actually move around these robots that can put out fires remotely. And they also have a nice large amount of these airplanes ready to go that are taken care of mechanically and that are operational, and they're on standby. And as soon as the drones or these remote sensors that they have all over the place, and we could set those up too, just like we have buoys that can sense things. We can have in the forest sensors like a fire detector, and even little cameras like even a Ring camera, and somebody's actually monitoring them. And as soon as you see something light up or ignite, you immediately dispatch. But the message is communication. That was the problem with 9/11. Everyone had different frequencies, different walkie-talkies. Nobody was communicating, and that's why the messages got mixed when they were. Some people were trying to tell people get out of the building. Other people were telling them stay in the building. Same thing with these wildfires. We need real-time communication. The technology exists, and we maybe need to bring in the Australian leadership in firefighting to come to California and give them some courses and lectures on how to properly fight wildfires.
Well, you can't do it if you're cutting $18 million out of your budget. TJ looked up for me. California spent $807 million on dealing with a homeless problem. Was this Los Angeles or California? Just Los Angeles, or was this California as a state? It was Los Angeles spent $807 million on homeless issues.
Right. And within that,
while at the same time cutting their fire budget by $18 million and decimating the ability for California to fight these wildfires. Again, this is priorities. So a lot of it has to do not just with the technology, but the political will to actually make the right choices. And that's what we are seeing. We have a state that is making choices based on an ideology, and that ideology has failed the people of that state. Everything from what, as you said, they're releasing the water into the Pacific Ocean. Donald Trump has been talking about this for I don't know how long. Instead of diverting that water, saving that water to areas that need it. They know it's a dry state. They refuse to let people clear the brush out of areas in that state. These are things that they don't need anybody from Australia to tell them this is wrong. What you're doing is wrong.
I call it priority portfolio dysfunction, that the priorities are totally not good. And I think that equal opportunity is what needs to come back, not equal outcome. I want my pilot, I want my surgeon, I want my firefighter to all take a test, pass it, the physical, the written, and be competent. I don't care about where you're from or the color of anything. It doesn't matter. When I grew up as a kid in Brooklyn, I never, ever even thought. We never labeled people. This whole thing about labeling, this one's this one's that. We were all friends. My best friends were, now that I think back, I didn't think about it then. They were, black, Puerto Rican, Jewish, and we didn't think about that. We're just all humans, and we just have to do our best and be the best we can be. And that's what we need to start doing about it. We have to stop labeling people. That divides us. We need to all get along, work together, and keep this amazing country of America great, so we can continue for our children and our grandchildren and continue to have our freedom. And also we need to take care of our health, and our health and security, and firefighting is national security, just like our healthcare system is, as we're facing all these new viruses that we're hearing about now in the news that are spreading around. And we need to immediately have a program, another program like we did with Operation Warp Speed, to start developing antivirals against these bird flus that are starting to now jump to humans. And we saw the first human death on a bird flu, and we just need to be better prepared, and we can't depend on other countries to make our antibiotics and our antivirals and the components, because one of the little tricks they do is the raw materials for medicines are coming from different countries, and then we assemble them here and we say made in USA, but we need to protect our supply chains in the coming years.
Doctor, we're going to have to leave it there for now. We have so much to do with this new incoming administration. Want to have you back as soon as we can to talk about the priorities, food supply, and all of that. We got so much to talk about with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for getting the truth out always on your show.
Appreciate you.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year to you too. Dr. Peter Michalos, folks, I think he's a genius. I know you do too. But we have so much to talk with him about. I want to drill down, especially when we get to the Kennedy, the hearings on whether Kennedy is going to succeed in his nomination. because this fear-mongering is already taking place in all quarters of Washington, D.C. James Golden. Yeah. The Ronettes. James Golden, Snerdley. Keep it right here. Your calls are coming up.
The James Golden Show. The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Ain't no water in these fire hydrants. How the firefighters supposed to work if they ain't got no water in the fire hydrants? Making sense, man. And let me tell you, the city look bad. It look bad out here. Real talk. President Biden come down here. He came down here to see his grandson, okay? His grandson was born today at Cedars-Sinai.
Great-grandson.
He held a press conference and said nothing. He didn't say a thing, all right? And Gavin Newsom was sitting right behind him, and he didn't say a thing either. Oh, and just so you know, they sent out another $500 million to Ukraine today, okay? Are they going to help the people? They probably not. Man, so many houses done got burned down out here, man. It looks ugly, and it just looks bad, man. So many people done lost their homes. The dogs done burned up. I seen horses on fire. It looks ugly. And I apologize, man. I usually don't get on here and cuss too much, man. But I'm a little frustrated, to be honest with you. I'm a little mad, dog. Y'all stay safe, man.
Steve Miller Band at number 1. Tomorrow's the anniversary of that, the Joker. Also, we played the Ronettes going in. That's because Ronnie Spector passed away. Tomorrow's the anniversary of that from the Ronettes. James Golden, Snerdley, let's head back to the telephones. Let's check in with Kurt in New Jersey. You are up next. Good morning, Kurt. How are you?
Oh, good morning, James. I'm good. Yeah, I was driving to work, and, basically you're paid according to your skills, and we spent a lifetime just, trying to learn things and go to school and, on-the-job training. But, when I was a kid in college, I was at a construction site, and I will never say. And this guy, Pasquale, from Sicilian, he taught me how to use a shovel. And, we started using the shovel, and wow, everything changed.
You know what? It's amazing that you say that because there can be expertise in almost anything with expert users. I saw a guy that was doing concrete and mortar work, and I've never seen anybody work like him. The precision, the speed. It's amazing. So you talk, I was listening, I know you're reacting to what Lizzie was saying, and I thought about this too. When I was coming up, and I hate to sound like one of these old guys when we were young, but look, the idea was you get your foot in the door. And that's what our parents would tell us. Get your foot in the door and then prove yourself. That's when you start demanding more money. You demonstrate your capabilities first. You demonstrate why you are valuable to the company. And then most of the time, you don't even have to ask for a raise if you prove your value. These kids, it's amazing to me. They walk in with a list of demands. And then I had to go through interviews. Oh, poor you. So I'll show them I'm not going to show up to work. It's an amazing mindset that we're witnessing today. Kurt, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Dave calling in from Scarsdale. How are you, Dave? We got less than a minute. Got to make it count.
quickly, last time we spoke was on the montages of Russia. I'll end it there. Why they must have fireboats in L.A. They have those big arcs of streams. Why were those houses along the beach almost not deluged by them? And why wouldn't they set up a system using their massive pumps with the endless supply of the Pacific Ocean to pump water inland to terminals where they could get huge, vast amounts of water? You got the whole Pacific Ocean there.
It makes no sense. And when you see the pictures of the burned out buildings and businesses, and next to it, the ocean, it is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. That's why I said, folks, liberalism is on fire in California. Our number duo in the can. Our number trio. Ah, yes, Princess Di will be with us. Our number trio. Ah, yes, America's Small Caffeinated Mom is going to be here too. And your calls. Do not go away. Stay here.
The James Golden Show is on the air with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Our number trio has arrived. And for many of you across America this morning, that means only one thing. The moment you have been waiting for.
It's time for Radio Royalty with James Golden and America's Princess of Policy, Princess Di.
Her nest is in the house, and that house is not burning. It's not in California. She's here. The royal opinions that matter most. From our very own Princess Diana. Good morning, Your Highnessness. How are you?
I am always so happy to hear your voice. Sir James, how are you?
Yeah, unless I'm calling to see whether you want to be on during the week, and then you say, no, I'll get it. Anyway, I'm doing all right. I am curious, though, Princess Diana. I'm curious. In any sane place on the planet, there would be a political tsunami happening if what has happened in California happened in a sane place. The people would not put up with it. Do you think that there will be any sort of long-lasting political reverberations from the gross mismanagement, the gross failure of government, the gross failure of the mayor, the governor, these overpaid, apparently elected, appointed officials who have allowed Los Angeles to burn?
I have to say I'm a little bit pessimistic about that, not because of the people of California, because I think that there are so many people of California who are reacting exactly as you described. But it is a one-party state, and all the mechanisms that people have tried before, whether it's propositions or recalls, go into the hands of the people running the structure of political opposition. And the poor people of California have been so maligned and so stomped on that the common sense people have not been able to enact their will in that state for a very long time. And so I think that that sentiment that you're describing is widespread. However, will they be able to actually rise up and change their government? I think that remains to be seen because of the corruption in the election process there.
Wow. Well, what do you think overall? about the infighting, the media reporting, the officials, what we've seen, and this latest call from Newsom to Joe Biden where he's whining for Biden to do something, whining for Biden to get a hold of all the so-called misinformation that's out there.
Well, yesterday was a big day for Democrat liberal complaints about disinformation. And that to me is a very hopeful sign. They are losing their grip, which they have had for 4 years, on their protocols that they have put in place on censorship. And suddenly they can no longer command the narrative. And even though the media is dutifully falling in line, that doesn't matter because people aren't paying attention to the media or the politicians. They see reality. And so thanks to a lot of open eyes over the election and COVID and other events, that people's own life experience contradicted what they were told as, quote unquote, the real story. This has been an eye-opening experience for the left. They can no longer declare something and have it be reality. And that conversation that you alluded to when Newsom was talking remotely to Biden, and he says, we've got to deal with misinformation. There are hurricane-force winds of mis and disinformation, lies. People want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that. That's what he told Biden. Interestingly enough, the BBC immediately went into action in a piece called Fact-Checking Criticism of California Democrats Over Fires. And so they started with Trump. BBC said, what has Trump claimed? And then described, he said in a social media post, Trump said Governor Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water to put out the fires. But the specific declaration he mentions doesn't appear to exist. The governor's press office issued a statement in response saying there is no such document. This is pure fiction. We've searched the document for the document and have been unable to find it. So I looked up, interestingly enough, the reporting from that time period. And here's the Fresno Bee, February 19th, 2020. President Trump arrived on stage around 3 p.m. to deliver remarks and sign a document from the Department of the Interior that would allow more water to flow through the Delta to southern regions in California. And then the quote from Trump, I'm going to be signing a very important piece of legislation that is going to give you a lot of water, a lot of dam, a lot of everything, he said. Just before Trump took the stage, Newsom announced he plans to file a lawsuit to block the president's initiative. We will file legal action in the coming days to challenge the federal opinions, which are permits, to protect highly imperiled fish species close to extinction, Newsom said. That is the Delta smell. In other words, the first thing that the BBC chose to say Trump is not being truthful ends up being completely truthful, and we have learned that over time. The media always claims, without evidence, Trump said X. And when you look into the story, inevitably, the evidence will back Trump up. And here it is once again, backing Trump up. And as you mentioned earlier, Trump has been on this problem for years. He has been using the bully pulpit, advising and scolding Newsom and California to make specific practical corrections that could have prevented this exact problem. And not only did he use the bully pulpit, he put into effect during his first administration multiple initiatives and programs and policies like the one I described to make it happen. And who stopped it? Governor Newsom. So this idea that there's all this disinformation out there, it's just inconvenient truth, quoting Al Gore. And the same day that Newsom and Biden talked yesterday about this disinformation, interestingly enough, yesterday, President Biden really got mad at Facebook or made its decision to end its fact-checking program, calling it shameful. He said, it's contrary to everything America is about. We want to tell the truth. While answering reporters' questions about the Meta decision to end its fact-checking program, said the move would allow things that are simply not true to be read by millions of people. And so the whole idea of walking away from fact-checking as well as not reporting anything having to do with discrimination, which, of course, no one understood what he meant by that, I find to be contrary to American justice, said Biden. So he's upset about disinformation, which means inconvenient truth on Facebook suddenly being allowed by Zuckerberg, which is an interesting development, which we could talk about. And a California governor and their administration is worried about disinformation there. And it turns out that all they're worried about is they look bad politically and they cannot stand it, but no one's listening.
I love it. And we will talk about Zuck when we get back. You know, there's a picture this morning of Zuck's plane, smaller than Trump's plane, by the way, next to Trump's plane down in West Palm Beach. Apparently, Zuck is at Mar-a-Lago again, or came to Mar-a-Lago again, something like that. So we'll talk about Zuckerberg and more with Princess Di. Robbie Bachman passed away. Anniversary tomorrow. Youngest brother of Randy Bachman, Bachman Turner Overdrive. I did a great interview with Randy a few months ago. What a great guy. Of course, this was their big one, 1974.
The James Golden Show. The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Kelvin made this one happen. The Bee Gees bring us back. Anniversary, sad one. Maurice passed away in 2003. Tomorrow's the anniversary of that. The Bee Gees on our Saturday morning vibe. Princess Di is here. Princess, we are going to do something we have never done before. We're going to jointly take a call. We're interrupting our segment to take a call. I have to take this call. I don't want him to go away. And I'm so happy you are here with me to take the call, Princess Diana. Let us welcome in Adam from Long Island. Good morning, Adam.
Hey,
Good
Adam.
morning, Mr. Snerdley. Good morning, Princess Diana. Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
Yeah. Last time I spoke to you, Mr. Snerdley, a few weeks back, I congratulated you. Trump won, this and that, but he's a convicted felon now, buddy. You got any good anything to say about that? So embarrassing.
You ought to be embarrassed about this phony sham trial. It's what you ought to be embarrassed about. You ought to be embarrassed that New York so-called justice would allow this to happen on the world stage. And come on, Adam, is that the best you got? Princess Diana. Well, okay, he's a convicted felon now. What does that mean to the Trump agenda for this next term?
Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. And interestingly enough, it doesn't even have the impact that you think it does, because your side has been calling him convicted felon ever since the conviction, months and months and months. It no longer has any weight whatsoever, and people have looked into it, and the American people made their verdict, and that was not guilty. So I think that this is not going to be the strong talking point you're hoping for.
Well,
Adam?
It's not really a strong talking point, but
You
when you
started
call it
with
a sham trial, I call those $1 million lawyers that he got garbage, because they couldn't even get around the sham trial. What'd you say about that?
Garbage.
I say
well, that was a word that was used by Joe Biden, and that did not help your side.
Adam, what's Kamala Harris
sir.
doing this weekend? Adam, what's Kamala Harris doing this weekend?
Getting ready to go vacation soon, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
You know?
Yeah. Hey, Adam, how do you like how the Democrats are running things out there in Los Angeles?
Seems like they're on fire to me, to tell you the truth.
I love you so much. Adam, thank you. And thank you for letting Princess Diana answer your question this morning. We love you, Adam. Thank
you, Adam. Yes, we do.
Thank you.
All right. That was great, Princess Diana. Thank you. Okay, Zuckerberg.
Yes. Interestingly enough, he has made 180. He, of course, I would not say, the big question I see on social media is, can we trust Zuckerberg? And, that to me is beside the point. He is interested in building his meta, kingdom. He's interested in business, and he has to navigate the political winds as best he can for his profit. He was pressured by the Biden people. And interestingly enough, on Joe Rogan this week, he had an interview and went into the detail of how the Biden administration would call him up and scream and yell and make him take off things that were true. And so he is coming clean on that information. But in the meantime, he got rid of the third-party fact checkers. He is completely getting rid of DEI in his companies, which, of course, is causing a rebellion amongst the Facebook and Meta staffers. They are just so upset because he's taking the tampons out of the men's room. So they're really worried about their non-binary staffers. So I think that this remains to be seen, but the political winds are pressuring him to change his approach, and he is trying best to save, his regulatory neck from the incoming Trump administration.
Now, by the way, did you see that Google ponied up $1 million for the Trump inauguration?
Yes, they are all trying to, protect themselves. That's what this is. They are worried because they have a terrible record of actual censorship being pressured by the actual federal government unconstitutionally for the last 4 years, and have stamped out conservative voices. And the only reason I think that they are falling in line right now is that Trump won, and they're seeing what a position of friendship that Elon Musk has. And so they're like, ooh, me too. I want to
this is the new This is the new Me Too movement. This is what Me Too has morphed into.
Yes, exactly. But I love that disinformation is suddenly winding its way out the door, because it is censorship. All of that approach to getting rid of quote-unquote disinformation that was only information that makes Democrats look bad. And sometimes the information needs to be told that makes Democrats look bad because it's the truth.
One of the things that Mark Zuckerberg said when he was talking about how they are going to follow the lead of Musk and allow for community notes. And by the way, those community notes do work. People on the platform say, wait a minute, that's not right. Here's the story. And so there is a check on misinformation, but it's from the community or the media. One of the things that he talked about was, look, our fact checkers make mistakes. And
they're
when
biased.
you start, right, and have their biases. And when you start talking about over a billion people using that platform, those mistakes were costing millions of people to be wrongly censored on Facebook. Biden never mentioned that part of it.
Yes, also the fact check, you can see who is screaming, but who's gotten burnt. And it's Biden is first, and then the Bulwark, which is a Never Trump outfit platform. They were one of the third-party fact checkers, and they are really upset that this is going to lead to, the end of democracy, of course, that people will be uncensored. So the people who are screaming loudest were the ones who were involved in censoring their fellow Americans. And it is about time that they were on the out and let the door hit them.
Okay. Thank you so much, Princess. By the way, continue to listen because I'm going to introduce you to something maybe you haven't heard of, WWBWD. Do you know what that is?
No. Oh, I'm eager to hear.
Okay, WWBWD. That's coming up. Don't go away. Keep it right here.
The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
I've decided my mantra for now on is this. WWBWD.
Here it is.
What would black women do?
What?
I read about them. I study their history. I follow many of you on TikTok, and they just do life with excellence. They do life with empathy, with passion, with heart, with soul. I want to emulate that. I admire them so much. And whenever I'm faced with any problem, whether it's personal, financial, relationships, my heart, my soul, my mind, I just have to ask, what would black women do? Because when they organize, they change the world. And that's what I want to do.
Have you ever heard the kind of pandering? Okay. So there you have it, white women of America. Your new suggestion is to WWBWD. There's that. Cynthia Robinson, vocalist and trumpet player, with Sly and the Family Stone, was born on this day, 1946. Well, tomorrow's the date. She passed away in 2015. But Cynthia, part of the groundbreaking sound of Sly and the Family Stone. James Golden with you.
James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley, presents Rapid Phones.
All right, folks, let's get to it. Ben in Binghamton, you are up. Well, that's Ben, yes, in Binghamton. How are you, Ben?
Bo, God bless you. Let's pray to Christ for President Trump, and let's pray for the good people in California and their families and the animals. Now, I just want to bring up something. I was out there just before into Thanksgiving morning, and West Coast Care, Jenna Hooks, and her husband and family, they help. They're in Santa Monica. And the Church of Santa Monica in Santa Monica, California, had a beautiful Thanksgiving dinner the day before Thanksgiving for all in need, helping veterans. Let's pray for them because in Pause of War and Dr. Spindler, Dr. Pell, they help the veterans and their
Okay, we're not going to do a lengthy commercial for everybody, but we get the gist of it. And many of us around this nation are praying for the good people of California. And by good people, we mean our fellow human beings. Politics doesn't enter into this when people are losing everything that they have. And yes, the prayers are up for the good folks in California. Bill in New Jersey, you are up next. How are you, Bill?
How you doing, James?
I think it was last year. Didn't the Governor Newsom invite over the head of Communist China to visit San Francisco?
What's your point about that?
I think you were trying to get them to invest in real estate, insurance,
Is that what he was
construction.
doing?
I just want.
You mean Gavin was cozying up to the commies? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe that when they rebuild, we'll have all eco-friendly neighborhoods.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. This is going to be a very expensive rebuild. We've never seen anything in, I think, America quite from fire. We have, but you have to go back to the Chicago fire. You have to go back to before modern times. This is, I think, the worst fire in America in modern times. Put it like that. Bill, thank you so much for the call. Sandra, New Jersey, you're up next.
Good morning, James. James, I'm thinking about this horrible fire in Los Angeles, and I keep thinking that the mayor was warned a month ago by the chief of the fire department not to cut costs, and she did by $17.5 million. And this money is going to the homeless people, and you don't cut costs when it comes to life and death. And I just want to give one nice comment to Harry and Meghan Markle. They're not my favorites at all, but they did show up to help. And I was surprised that she offered people to live in her home. That's kind of a nice thing that she did, right?
Okay. That is
Even
a nice
though
thing
she's
that she
not my-
did.
Yeah, she's not my
Doesn't
favorite.
have to be your
cup of
favorite.
tea.
People don't look when people are hurting the way people are hurting in California right now. The instinct, I think, the proper instinct for everybody is to see how they can be of service, and so that's a wonderful thing, Sandra. I appreciate it. Vic, Pennsylvania, up next.
Good morning, James. James, what's going on with the poor people in North Carolina? Are they now forgotten?
Yes. Answer to that question, yes. And by the way, Joe Biden immediately stepped out and said, "Oh, we're going to 100% back the people in California." Remember what the federal government response was to the people in North Carolina. Here's $750 if you qualify. Remember the contrast. Julie in New Jersey, you're up next.
Good morning. I'm just wondering, I haven't seen any photos or any tapings of what's going on in the shelters. That's a lot of people who were evacuated. Where are they? How are they?
LA is such a sprawling town. Now, there are any number of stories that are out here now. And by the way, I haven't seen those pictures either. But a lot of people have gone to hotels. A lot of people, of course, are staying with friends. This is all short term. There are so many stories about the crunch that this is going to have on Los Angeles real estate. The rental market, which was already in shortage, is going to be pushed out. There are already, of course, politicians saying no price gouging better happen here, and there are legal restrictions about that. So the market for real estate in Los Angeles is going to be a story for months and perhaps years to come as a direct result of what happened here. Great point. Glad you brought it up. Lee in New Jersey, you're up next.
I have an answer for you for why they don't pump the water out of the ocean into the fires.
Mm-hmm.
When you apply salt water onto land that grows stuff, it destroys the ability for things to grow there for up to a couple, 2-3 years before the land replenishes itself.
Thank you for that, which, by the way, comes up to another point. People were saying there should be a massive desalination program so that there is enough water to contain whatever the fire threats are. But that is a great point because that question has been raised any number of times. Thank you for the call, Lee. Rob, Oceanside, you're up next.
Oh, it's good to talk to you. Big listener, big follower, even back in the Rush days. I want to say something about, listen, when you're in leadership, especially out in California, and you have these ongoing wildfires, we are the most technological advanced country in the world. They have to think of something. Their first duty to the people is to protect and serve. All right? So they need to figure out something. If Israel can do these infiltration systems with pumping the salt water back into these reservoirs, you know what? Fresh water back in, so could they.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And don't forget what Dr. Michalos talked about, too, the robotic firefighters and using technology. We're going to take a quick break here. Coming up, ladies and gentlemen, America's small caffeinated mom, Rhonda Shrock, will join us. Yeah, Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix, Purple Haze. Today is the anniversary of the recording of this song in Delaine Leah Studios in London. Hendrix said it was about a dream he had, that he was walking under the sea. Jimi Hendrix Experience, Purple Haze. Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Keep it right here. I'm sorry. It's our Saturday morning vibe. It's all good.
The James Golden Show. The James Golden Show. It's politics, but theater of the mind with James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Birthday today, heavenly one, for Henry Lee Jackson, Big Bank Hank, rapper with the Sugar Hill Gang, credited with the first massive hit in the hip-hop genre. There were others. We'll get into that history at another point. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, America's small caffeinated mom joins us from America's heartland. Good morning, Rhonda.
Good morning, James. I got to tell you, yesterday I was living in a snow globe. The snow was coming down and dusting my world with powdered sugar. Are you disappointed that you can't be here to see that?
No. No.
Well, that's actually the topic of my essay, James. I've been thinking about that word, disappointment. I've been reflecting on it because it's a common human experience. There's not one soul who has ever walked this earth that has not been disappointed at some point. And yes. So, I mean, even our little bitty children experience disappointment. You know, when the birthday balloon popped or when the ice cream cone fell down, they would let us know how disappointed they were very loudly. So even my tiny little toddlers knew what it was to be disappointed. I was thinking about the different areas in our lives in which disappointment afflicts us. Love is one of the big ones. We have been disappointed in love, many, many of us. There are, of all the categories that we suffer disappointment, this is probably the hardest one. Relationships, as I'm sure you know, James, require vulnerability, and that kind of connection that we are all looking for, it comes with a price. So if you open your heart, you are opening yourself to the possibility of pain, to the possibility that you might be let down, that you might be abandoned and you might be rejected. So love always comes with a risk. And pain, by the way, is the price that we pay for love. As children, I'm sure you did. You were talking about your childhood with your bike going all over the neighborhood. You anticipated growing up into being an adult, just like I did. It just seemed when you were a kid like adults had all the freedom in the world. They could make all their choices. Nobody was bossing them around. That's what we thought. And it just seemed like boundless liberty if you could just grow up and get to choose. And if we were mad and having sibling fights, we would say to each other, "You aren't the boss of me." We just wanted to be our. Oh yes, we wanted, and that could be accompanied with slapping and scratching and things like that. At least I've heard that happens. When my husband was a boy, his big dream of independence included a car of his own and a can of Hershey's chocolate syrup. He just thought, I can drive wherever I want, I can chug my Hershey syrup whenever I want, and I will finally be free. He literally thought that. Well, how disappointed do you think he was when he grew up and discovered that that was not really all that much fun? And he learned that adulting is very hard. And the freedom that he anticipated with that can of syrup actually looked suspiciously like responsibility, self-control, and hard work. That's a disappointing realization when we learn that adulting comes with so much more difficulty than we ever dreamt it did. Many of us have faced disappointment at work. How many people have started careers thinking this is what I want to do with my life, and it turned out that it wasn't what they thought? Difficult bosses, difficult coworkers, all of that can make a very disappointing experience in the workplace. Layoffs, we live in a heavy manufacturing community, and when the economy drops, there are so very many disappointed people who are suddenly looking for work. It's just so hard. Having our plans disrupted, that's another big one. We have charted our course, something happens, and life comes to a halt. I'll never forget the day that I was in an obstetrician's office, and the doctor looked at me and he said, starting today, your life is going to change. It is not a question of if this baby will be early. It's only a question of how early will he be. And he sent me to bed for 2.5 months. I missed summer. I missed fall. I was in bed 22 hours a day, watching the world go by outside my window. I had 2 other little boys to care for at the time, and I was helpless. Talk about a disappointment. I could not go to the park and play with them. We were housebound. It was very disappointing, and it was frightening. I have lived long enough, James. There are some benefits to growing older. There are some things I have learned for sure. And the first one is that there's always something to learn. If I allow it, disappointment can be my great teacher. That, I have learned, requires a willingness and a desire to be taught. So whether a disappointment comes to me through something I have done, through choices of my own, or it's come to me against my will, I can always stop, and I'm learning to do this, and say, what is this teaching me? If my actions or choices have caused a disappointment or contributed to a disappointment, it is the perfect time for me to stop and say, why? Why is this here? Where is this coming from? And if it's a recurring pattern in my life, because some things are, I will ask myself, what is going on in my heart and my mind that is causing these things to keep happening? That kind of self-reflection has brought me some of the greatest personal growth that I have ever experienced. And it burns like fire, but the fruit and the results are so good. If a disappointment has come to me against my will, and many things do, then I go mining to see what nugget there is in there for me to keep. Now, it can take me a while to feel like doing that because you just feel all the feelings, shock, pain, anger, all those things. And it's okay to feel that for a bit, but if you sit there, you start putting roots down and you can't move forward. So eventually, I let myself feel all the things, but then eventually I find the strength to go treasure hunting. And every single time there is something really good for me to take away from it. The other thing I have learned is that often disappointments bring divine appointments. So during that 2.5 months when I was in bed and I could not even go to my doctor's office for my checkups, the loveliest thing happened to me. Home health care nurses would come in weekly, and they would speak to me by phone every day, monitoring me very closely. And they were some of the sweetest, most professional, compassionate human beings. And I would never have met them if I had just been out in the world, if I had not been bedridden. But because of that turn and that disappointment, I met these professional women who just blessed me so much and were such a gift to me during a very hard time in my life. That was so special, and I was very thankful for that. The other thing that Grant and I have experienced over and over is that our greatest disappointments have been our best reroutings. When we have a roadblock or a stop sign, a closed door, it gives you a chance to reroute. A new door will open up, a new road will open up, a new lane, and you will find yourself in places you never thought you would be and doing things you never thought you would do. And it's surprising in the best kinds of ways. So I've learned not to fight roadblocks too much because of where they have taken me. They can also save us from disasters that we can't see, but someone does. Parents who watch their children walking through disappointments, that is one of the hardest things in the world. It is easier for us to face disappointment ourselves than to watch a child face disappointment. So here's where we have to decide what we value most, and actually this applies to each of us personally. Is our happiness and our child's happiness the most important thing, or is our character and maturity the most important thing? How I navigate my life through that filter is going to determine how I end up. And how I parent with that filter is going to have a great bearing on how my children end up. Of course, I want to be happy. Of course, I want my sons to be happy. But I want their growth in character, and I want my own growth in character more than I want happiness. And here's the truth. Happiness is a byproduct of a good character and sound wisdom and a life that is lived with integrity and compassion for other people. And that is worth more than anything else in the world. So if you're facing a disappointment, consider stopping and asking yourself, why am I here? What good is there in it for me or for my loved one? And what good might come from this? And then there's this one last thing I want to leave you with. We might be the divine appointment for someone else. When you learn to live with that perspective in mind, that perhaps the people who cross my path are divine appointments for me to show kindness, a little bit of warmth, a tiny bit of light, if it's just a smile, it can make such a difference. And those ripples will go on further than you and I will ever know. And our quality of life and our happiness will just continue to grow. That's what I want you to know today.
Beautiful. As always, Rhonda. Where can people find your essay?
What to Do with Disappointment is on thedailybs.com today.
And where can people find you?
RhondaShrock.com, SCHROCK.
Thank you, Rhonda. We leave you with that, my friends. May God bless and protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Our prayers do go to the people that are suffering, not just in California, but around this country. God willing, we are back here, same time, same station that you found us on today, next week. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.